Welcome to A Shot Between the Reels. My name is Dan, and over on the other side here we have...
My name is Brendan.
Hey, Brendan.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I see we have a new backdrop behind you.
We do.
That means there is a new house.
It does. Since the last time that we will have been on here, I
Yeah.
have since moved house. I'm not sure if I probably did say something about it before, but yes.
There we go. My burning question.
Go on.
Was the painting there when you moved in?
The painting is a family heirloom. Yeah,
Ooh,
I know.
wow.
It's not from my side of the family. It's from Sarah's side. So it's her nan who painted it, which I love. It's really cool. It's a really nice painting, actually. It looks very regal, though, admittedly.
It does. It's the frame, isn't it? It really
Working
to another
perfectly
level.
with like stripped wallpaper as well.
Yeah. It's trying to kind of make it a bit of a classier wall, isn't it?
Yeah,
I like it. It's great. Anyway, moving on. We have a film to review. As always, we have a frank discussion about our movie for the week. Brendan, why don't you introduce the film that we are thinking about?
No, I was wondering whether we should change it up and you should introduce the film this week.
Okay, fine.
Let's do that.
I shall introduce the film this week, and this week we are venturing into the world of Netflix, and we are watching George Clooney directed and starring The Midnight Sky. Brendan, should we go straight in for a star rating? I don't know what you think of this film at all.
So interestingly, the reason I asked you to introduce was because I was the person that picked the film this time round.
Yes, it was your suggestion, sir.
I'd heard things about this, and in light of the news also that Netflix apparently, didn't they say something like a film a week for the whole of this year or something?
They announced that, didn't they, the other week, that they want to do a new film, a Netflix-owned film, once a week for this year, which is quite remarkable.
Definitely. I mean, they've had a massive surge of more people sign up for their service as well, so it paints
the pandemic will mean that there'll be people wanting to just release their stuff as well, and it's a platform they can do it on.
So an interesting one. I think we can go straight in for star ratings if you're happy. Would you like me to?
We can come back to Netflix later.
Yeah.
Brendan, tell me your star rating for The Midnight Sky.
So I went a little bit back and forth between two scores. I waited on it for a little bit, and I settled this morning, actually, while I was thinking about it. I settled on 3.5 stars.
Ooh, 3.5 stars, Brendan. I took a little bit of time thinking about what I would give this film, and I too tossed up two different scores, and I settled for 3.5 stars as well.
Oh, look at that.
We're in sync, Brendan.
In sync. Love it.
3.5 stars. There we go. So I think you alluded to earlier about the sort of the chat about this film. It's not got great sort of critical responses. I saw some stuff on Twitter from film critics that wasn't particularly positive.
Yeah.
IMDb gave it just over 5 stars. So generally, people who like movies, it's a bit of a average film. But
yeah.
Brendan, tell me why you kind of went for the 3.5.
So I alluded to the fact that I was flitting between two different scores. Originally, I was thinking more like a 3-star, and I bumped it to 3.5. So
I had the same thing.
Yeah. So the reason being, I think maybe we should touch briefly on what the story is about. So the idea is that we've got our main character, George Clooney's character. I cannot remember the name of the character.
Augustine.
Oh, there you go, Augustine. So he is, he kind of like, what is he? He like an astronomer. He knows basically. He's like studying the
He's a
idea of,
scientist, isn't he? He's like a
yes,
space.
studying the idea of basically the potential of uh, another source, another planet that the human race can go to. Because obviously, this is the nearish future, and things are starting to look bad on the planet. So we get a few flashbacks to him as a younger man, and we're kind of getting his story filling in. But as we start with him, he's in he's kind of in an observatory, isn't he, in the Arctic or whatever, and we see that people are being flown away, and
Yeah, they're
he's staying there.
evacuating, aren't they?
Yeah, so he's
Kind
like
of.
staying there as a lone man, and we see him just trying to reach contact with people that have gone into space, presumably on these missions to find other potential life source planets. And the story centers around him and then also these people on one other ship that he finds and gaining back in contact with them.
Yeah.
But all the while this is happening, there is something that's happened on the Earth called the event, and we don't really know anything about it other than it's basically made the, I assume, the planet non not really.
Uninhabitable.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, it basically kills human, at least human life.
yes, yeah.
We encounter one person, don't we? Who basically is like his skin's kind of gone all weird.
Mm.
So we know it's something that's like basically there's a poisonous thing in the air. I think it's probably,
They have to wear masks when they're
yeah,
outside and everything. So, yeah. So there's all this going on, and I don't know where to start with this really. I think there's things going for this film, as in visually, I think it is quite impressive.
yep,
I really like the set design.
yep,
I I'm a big fan in stories when kind of less is more. So they don't really, there's a lot of more, say, environmental storytelling. So they're telling things through the environment itself. The characters don't have to say loads. I mean, George Clooney, what you're seeing is what you get most of the time. You know he's an actor of good caliber, so you know you're going to get a good performance, and he is good. I did like him in it. The other characters, I don't know. I could give or take them that. I think they were fine. It was okay.
yeah. They lack a bit of depth at
Yes.
times.
Yes. Because I suppose they can't go into they they don't maybe they don't necessarily feel like they need to go into a whole load of depth, or maybe it's just there wasn't enough in the source material they're going off on. No, it's based on a book, isn't it?
It is based on a book, and I feel like there are times where you feel like you're watching a film that's based on a book, and that's not always a bad thing necessarily, but
No.
there's that kind of, you feel like there are kind of chapter moments,
Yes. Yeah.
you know, like the certain sequences that happen, and they're great. The sequences, don't get me wrong, you know, there's some great tense moments,
Yeah. Absolutely.
particularly with the that kind of hub thing that sinks into the ice. That's a great sequence.
Very good.
All the stuff in space where they're kind of outside doing the
Yeah.
work.
Space stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Visually pretty good.
Yeah.
Couple of not great special effects moments, but on the whole, really good, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, in terms of the story, it's a bit of a slow burn. It
Yeah.
does, and like you say, there's a lot of the kind of trying to let you find out the story rather than spoon feeding it, which would be my preference, probably. But that probably does mean it slows the pace down a bit at times. Because
Yeah.
I think George allows you to kind of feel it through, and there's a lot of kind of space to feel the film, not just kind of follow the story. There's a lot of time to breathe in it, because there's a lot of emotion there.
I wanted to get your opinion so say if we pit this on a level versus another modern science fiction film
Yeah.
that we both really love. So say we talk about Arrival. Arrival
Okay.
to me is a gold standard science fiction film. It's
Yeah.
really good, modern, but instantly a classic. It's got, for me, it just has everything. It's a great film. It gets you talking, and then afterwards, your mind is still reeling from it.
And you
It's,
want to watch it again.
yeah, absolutely. And so if we put this slightly into the same category as it is,
Yeah.
I, you could argue that something like Arrival is a bit of a difficult one because it tells you a lot about its world, but it also leaves enough that it wants you to kind of work it out as well. Yes, there's a lot of
Yeah.
um
There's a
it's
lot of
kind of a bit,
mystery in there, isn't there?
there's a bit more of the expositional stuff going on at the end because I think they feel like the character has to in some way explain it to you
Resolve it. Yeah.
because there's bound to be some people that are going to be lost. Whereas in this film, all, all we know is what the event happens, but we don't know what the event is because we're only really told, like you said, through certain things in the environment and the fact that we see that the man that has basically got something, he looks like he's almost like has leprosy, doesn't he, of
Yeah.
some kind, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting kind of comparison to think of something like Arrival that has a more emotional punch to it. Certainly, the when you get to that real kicker near the end, and sort of the emotional side of things is deeper,
Yeah.
and I think it's more intriguing. There's more mystery in that film. I think this one, the payoff doesn't quite work. Um, that being said, I think the twist, because it's kind of a twist, and I think part of me can't get away from the fact that if I was reading it, would I, would that twist be more powerful?
I
Perhaps,
think so. I think so.
work knowing that actually the girl isn't there. He's kind of imagining her, um, but then actually she ends up being on the spaceship. I mean, yeah, I quite liked it.
Is it
When you
implied?
start talking about it, it seems a bit dumb.
It does. But I mean, did is it implied in your opinion that that's meant to be his
Yeah,
daughter?
100%. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why he's got like so emotional
Yeah.
when he realizes who it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing I didn't really like is the flashbacks to sort of the young Augustine and his girlfriend. I didn't I didn't really love that stuff. I'll be honest, but
Is that
it's helpful
also
because
what's weird?
we need it for the story. I get that, but
What's kind of weird about that is that we see those flashbacks with like the young Augustine, but is it still using? It's like his. I was trying to work out if they've dubbed his voice.
yeah, I know.
They've dubbed
I
his
think it
voice
was just
in.
a good impression, to be honest. But
Maybe
there's certainly a bit of a George tone, isn't there?
it felt like it anyway. I
Yeah,
mean, if it's an impression, it's a really good impression. But
yeah. I mean, I think there's enough in this film to make it entertaining. The other sequence that I really liked was the one with like the Arctic wolves, in that blizzard, the total
that's
whiteout.
great when he can like basically see nothing, and it's
Yeah,
really.
brilliant.
I mean,
Um,
the moments where they're really ramping up the tension.
yeah,
Uh, Sarah said it to me in a way. She was like, "This film is doing nothing for my anxiety," was her phrase. But but it made me chuckle because I thought what this film is doing well is it definitely ramps the tension up in such a way that you're really kind of like living in those moments, and it
yeah,
does do that well. You feel it with those moments with him on the planet's surface, and then you definitely feel it with the characters up in space when they do the spacewalk, and then you have like whatever the meteor shower thing that's kind of happening.
yeah,
All of that feels um, adequately proportioned, I guess. It doesn't feel over the top. It just feels like these people are suffering in these situations and they do it well. And it's a good mixture of that and then these slower paced moments where you're learning a bit more about these characters. Admittedly, not loads from those ones on uh, on the spaceship, but you're getting a little bit more of Augustine, especially. I think.
Yeah, I do feel like the space stuff lacked a bit of kind of depth in terms of being. I didn't feel as invested as I did with the storyline of him and the girl. But yeah, and you kind of feel like you waste the acting talents a little bit of those guys because they're all really good.
It's good players, I think. I mean, like they could have had, as much as they gave him a little bit more of a backstory, could they not have potentially even done the same with them? Or
Yeah,
they could have shown,
it's tricky.
charted it.
The film probably is about 20 minutes too long.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. It's tricky. Now that kind of makes me wonder as well with the kind of the Netflix influence. You kind of wonder how much that makes a difference. If that was a different studio, I mean, I imagine George carries quite a bit of, weight.
I thought so.
Who he is. I haven't checked, but I'm assuming he's also an executive producer.
Obviously.
So, yeah, I mean, he basically is probably going to get to make whatever he wants. But knowing that that's a big budget for it, $100 million, it says. That's what Google tells me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's that great, if I'm honest. I mean, it's a 7 is okay. It's a recommendation from us.
Yeah, I think so.
I think what I'm getting at is that Netflix, if I think back at the films that they've produced in recent times, and I'm not talking about when they go to like an elite director. So I want to put films like Roma and like Mank to one side and The Irishman. Let's put those on their own shelf because actually, if you're going to Martin Scorsese, that's a different whole kettle of fish.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing, isn't it? Yeah.
If we go back to, so we did one with Chris Hemsworth, Extraction.
Yeah, I was thinking Extraction. Yeah,
it's good. It's not great. It's average.
Yeah, it's
passable.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Bird Box. Quite good.
Yeah.
But not great. I don't think it's a great film.
No, it's an interesting premise, but it's largely probably forgettable. A lot of these films are kind of like forgettable. Yeah.
Yeah. One that I was thinking of with Bird Box was The Silence. I don't know if you've seen this. It's got Stanley Tucci in.
I know I've heard of that, but I don't know.
It's another end of the world sort of story.
Okay.
And I think if you look on Netflix, there's quite a few of these end of the world themed stories. There's loads.
Yeah.
I think there's TV series as well that are Netflix produced. Now, I know that that's probably a bit of a theme within the science fiction kind of realm.
Oh, absolutely. Like post-apocalyptic, big thing. Yeah.
I just want to say I'm getting a bit tired of it.
But also, I think what's interesting is now being that the world that we currently all find ourselves living in, I think people are burned out on the idea of post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. Because the reality of it is just a lockdown where you just watch a lot of telly.
Yeah. Why have they never made a film about that?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're probably burned out on the idea of it. Not that we're living in a post-apocalyptic society, but sometimes it doesn't feel that far off. And I guess for some people, it's just, there's so much. I feel like there's so much that you can do with the science fiction genre, and then to effectively say we're going to pigeonhole all these types of films into one specific area and just say this is the area. Like for instance, what's the one, the John Krasinski film that was recent?
Oh, what the old?
I cannot remember what it was called, but you know the one I mean.
Quiet Place.
The Quiet Place. There you go.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
So yeah, that is well done. That film again. It's a similar thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that one I quite liked it, but still,
It was a good film.
Present premise, you know. I don't know. I just feel like I'm getting a bit fed up with it.
I understand.
And I think actually, one thing I did like about going back to the Midnight Sky is the space stuff. I personally love a space story. You know, stick people on a space shuttle, futuristic one as well, even better. And I'm already there. You know, sign me up. I want to know more. So
Yeah.
I think that probably helped me, and probably as well having it kind of more intimate story was preferable. But yeah.
I mean, it leaves it on quite. I think the end of the film leaves it on a relatively dour note, doesn't it? In that you've got the two characters, the only two characters left on the ship, going back to the planet they've surveyed. Just the two of them. They mention even at one point it feels a little bit too quiet, like they're not quite sure. It feels almost too perfect, and they didn't really touch any more on that, which I felt a bit sad about because I thought there could be something interesting there. That waking nightmare sequence that she had of
bit left in
admittedly special effects weren't amazing there, but that spot where she kind of has the thought that the ship is leaving without her is
that paranoia.
yeah, so it's kind of a cool moment, and I like the idea that part of me felt, wouldn't it have been a bit more interesting to have them discovering the planet and kind of learning all those things about it? But
yeah, you wonder, there might have been more of that in the book. Who knows?
maybe, yeah, possibly.
I mean, at the end, Brendan, tell me if you're being honest, right? At the end of the film, you got the couple. She's pregnant, going back to that planet.
Yeah.
That's the end of the human race there, or is it the beginning? Now, are you thinking what everyone else is thinking, Brendan? How do they restart the human race?
They don't, is the answer to that. They don't. Because I was thinking exactly the same thing. Like, they go back to that planet, they're going to die, and there's going to be no one left.
Is that how you feel? That's what you thought?
That's what's going to happen. I mean, that's the reality.
Wasn't in there at all for you.
What were you thinking?
But for the human race to survive, there has to be incest there, doesn't there?
But it does. I mean,
find that a little distracting.
That's obvious. That's implied, but then that's not much of a live on for the human race, is it really?
I would have loved the film to have ended with a discussion of we're going to have a lot of kids, you know, or going to have at least one boy, you know, plenty of girls. No, like it would have just been totally awkward, wouldn't it?
Yeah, basically. But I mean,
Netflix
and that's
what I've said, George, we're not doing that bit. Take the incest conversation out.
He so badly wanted to have that conversation that he left them lingering on the screen just there, just in the hopes that he'd just film a little bit of dialogue and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fine, we'll sneak that bit in. I like that I actually quite liked the way that the ending was somber. They don't really talk as they're heading off because I guess they're processing everything that's basically just happened. And then as they head out, it lingers the shot on them.
Yeah,
and
it does.
Not talking, and then
some great acting as well, pretending to touch all the dials and check things.
Keep pressing buttons.
Then David Oyelowo just walks off. He's like, I'm leaving you to it. He didn't even say, I'm leaving you to it. He's just like, going for a poo.
You know what? I would have had, that might have given it an extra half a star if that's what he'd said.
You just need the loo, love. Just got to go spend a penny.
I've just got to go pinch a loaf. So if you're all right, if you just stay here.
You're in control. You have the con. Yes. Oh dear.
You have the con, number one. What are you going to do? And number two.
Oh dear. If only.
If only.
Yes.
For
I
sure.
think we've exhausted the Midnight Sky now.
Yeah, we have.
It's been a wonderful evening with you, Brendan.
Always, Dan, always.
It's just always a pleasurable journey in your company.
It's been a while off, but I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, we took a nice lengthy break,
We did.
recharged the batteries, and we're back with a vengeance.
Exciting times.
Cool. It's a goodbye from me. Stay frosty, people. Bye.
Bye.